diabetes and cancers and things.
Kyla, could you back up and redress your issue or item?
Yep. Can you hear me now?
Yeah. We keep on breaking off.
Okay. The H. pylori can be attributed.
Our fault.
It can be attributed to just different cancers and things like that. No? Do you want me to try dial in? Hello?
I guess Netflix is really kicking in right now.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay. I'll try this again. H. pylori can be attributed to different types of cancers and diabetes and types of things like that, ulcers. It's found in 50% of the worldwide population. It's found in their gastrointestinal systems. So Dr. Beauchart wants to test our raw water before it's treated to see if it has H. pylori. When I spoke to the EHOs, they were kind of hesitant about that because more than likely they'll find H. pylori. So the next question is, once you do all the testing and find it's in the water, there's not really a way to treat the raw water. Our drinking water is fine. We don't have H. pylori in it, so we don't really understand what she wants to accomplish from that. But if she wants to, it's not going to hurt anything.
She's gone again.
I'm gone. I'm back.
Yeah, you're back.
So there's a letter under my report from Dr. Beauchart. She's making a request to do research on our untreated water because she says she's seen H. pylori, which is a bacteria in some of her patients. There was some hesitation from our environmental officer. We know it's not in our treated water, so we're not sure what the next steps would be once or if it is found.
I think the association is that because the fish live in the water and we're a heavy consumer of fish, that there might be some type of clinical or tie-in, I guess, based on our consumption of the fish and living in untreated water. But I think you're missing the glaring part, that it's a major cause of intestinal cancer, as I understand it. And the concern is that if that word gets out, it might cause some alarms to go off within the community about water in general.
I wonder if as a next step, we could look at some similar studies because there have been fish consumption studies within the community. That information might address some of her concerns. In general, though, the reason we brought it here is without the process would be for council to approve any research requests.
Cody.
Yeah, I know a guy from Sarnia. He has his own business called NSpec. It's an environmental analyst, and he can do studies on soil, water, whatever you want. If it's track back to fish or amphibians, he can study all that. So it'd be, his name's Eric Ruggles. If there's a possibility to get in touch with him, I think he can help a lot of the questions that are arising here. And we can get some clarity on what's in our soils, our water, our marshland. We can get all of those answers through this little study here. And he's pretty good. He does inspections on schools and stuff like that for asbestos in the ground, different construction sites. He's the environmental analyst. So he'll tell you what's in the soil before the construction goes. So they're not opening up something in concern. So his name's Eric Ruggles. I'm sure of his phone number right now, but the company is called NSpec. He's out of Sarnia, and it'd be quite valuable, I think, to get in touch with him.
James?
Okay, thank you for that. think probably we could look and see whether this is something that's been tested in the past. The one concern I would have with this is having seen a number of fish consumption studies, and the majority are in First Nations or tribes. What can easily happen is, because of the nature of the study and talk about in the community, you see fish consumption generally go down in households, which can have a negative nutritional effect that outweighs the risks of feeding the fish. So I would want to be cautious of that, since we've had studies like this in the past, and I remember being involved with them. That was a factor even at that time, and we knew it was contributing to lower fish consumption in general. And if you have a household that, because of income or other factors, isn't receiving quality nutrition, that could be worse than any kind of risk. Just a comment.
Yeah, I'm wondering if Kyla and maybe Naomi could follow up that from, I think she does a lot of research, I guess, and monitoring of fish. And it seems to be an obvious tie-in there. And water in general is part of her scope, I guess, of research on the island here. I'm wondering if those two could work on determining type of study or not. Can we do that?
I was just going to let you know that anytime you do any sampling of raw water or the environment, you're going to find H. pylori.
Yeah.
If you sample 50% of the people in the room, or if you sample the people in the room, 50% will likely have H. pylori in their system. That's where the concern is. Okay, you identify that it's there because we know it will be, but what can we do about it? There's vaccinations in progress, like studies, but there's not really a treatment. We'd have to treat the whole environment.
Right. I have Neva, then Ron.
There was a study done on multiple. We had the presentation from Christiane Stevens, you recall, and maybe really before Samantha to get in contact with her, because what she could do is look at the numbers who have H. pylori and then look at all of their reasons, their lifestyle, if they consume fish, all that, if she wants to find or pinpoint causes. She may want to work with her.
And yeah, Christiane Stevens and her former supervisor, Reagan Darnell, also conducted fish consumption study.
Okay.
And in general, Dr. Boshart wouldn't be able to access that data from those researchers either. It's protected as medical data. So probably the simplest solution is to have Kyle and Naomi, maybe be the mediators for now. I would caution, even though Dr. Boshart is Indigenous in her community as a doctor, but about sort of losing the reins of data collection and research within our own community. So maybe Kyla, can you work with Naomi on a briefing note and look at the prior research?
Ron's got a solution here.
Naomi's already done data collection on the ground soil samples. There was high fecal bacteria in the groundwater here, especially as the water has been high. And she said it was very alarming. There was other types of bacteria that wasn't good for us. And so I don't know exactly all the sites, but she did quite a few sites. And so she would be a person to touch base, but she has that report. It was brought before council. And I think it's quite alarming because I think it coincides in reading Dr. Bouchard's report. It did say it was talking about groundwater here in the area. And we do have a lot of septic fields, so that just goes right into the groundwater. And we don't excrete all the medications that we take. That goes into the septic fields and into the water. So some of that gets put right back in the ground. So there's a bunch of things that I think you're disregarding without seeing the total picture. Yeah, that's perplexing. I think you guys need to go over that pretty good to see what we need. And I think it gives another argument for the wastewater treatment plant. it's gonna glaze it over, then I guess we're just sitting over here from now and then.
Mhm.
We need to get on the board and see where it gets right there. Which,
Agreed. Concluding statements. If not, Kyla, Tyler?
Yeah, like, I know Dr. Boshart is from Chippewa Hams, but she seems to be also very knowledgeable and concerned and willing to help, like, I said, she's even willing to apply for research dollars. I don't think you should kind of leave her out of the picture. Acknowledging her help and assistance too. Just to see, like you said, more heads around it, maybe we can get to the bottom of concerns and like Ron has said, and developing a bunch of other types of things. I just think she seems pretty good and willing to apply. Suggestion. Or acknowledge that, something to be looked upon.
I guess I could invoke council procedure and refer it to committee. The recommendation.
That's you.
James,
You could make a motion to approve the request, and that just means that we provide her with weekly water at the same time.
I wouldn't go that far yet. I'd like to see a recommendation from somebody with some type of support and rationale behind it. Keenan?
I was gonna say, one of the things that I would like to see added to this, because of the amount of pleasure boats that are now coming in local waters, big congregations that happened last year, St. Bay, Johnson Bay, Coos Lake, Horseshoe Bay, Cass Bay. I'm just wondering if sites like that could be included. So there's a huge boats. Right, so on a site for most of them, you know what happened, when you dump their tanks. That's not nothing to do. Right, I think sites like that, we can get the benefit of this testing out there as well.
Okay, is everybody comfortable in referring this to committee of well-being? And they could prepare a recommendation for us to consider? Agreed? Okay. We'll proceed on that basis then. And we could have a motion to that effect there. Moved by Lyle, that'll be referred to the community well-being, the issue that has been brought forward by Kyla. Seconder, please. Second by Keenan. All those in favor? That is carried. Thank you, Kyla.
Thank you.
Have a good evening.
You guys have a good meeting.
Okay. The other items I have there, what is the status with our, we were going to resurrect the cannabis committee or task force, I guess. Yeah. We identified, I thought we had identified some people for that already, did we not? Yeah.
Does task force, did we strike one? Is anyone on it?
I'd like to be on there. I got a horticulture background. I went to college for that, and I could help us get licensed so we can start doing the medical thing. And it's 100% legal now. We've got to start funds coming into the island. We can generate a lot of jobs, and it could benefit us. Monies that can go to the youth, they go to the education, go everywhere, housing. A lot of money can be made with this. We do it the right way.
I got Lee, then Ron.
So the idea of the cannabis law was that if Walpole decides to, and that would take further because that wasn't part of that passed. The council was just going to law, and we would give up licenses to the businesses here. And other things we want to board. And then we decided to have different types of from dispensaries to grow ops, micro ops, and other things, not just marijuana, medical marijuana, because there's many different ways of how it needs to be done, because marijuana and medical marijuana balls of wax. And then the other thing is also hemp. So we were discussing all of those, and the laws are already drafted, it was ready to go to community. And we didn't have that opportunity. So and there was a survey done too that came in.
Yeah, in the process that was envisioned at the time, was there consideration, I guess, for community engagement, I guess?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay,
That's what I'm saying is there was, that was the next piece.
that was the next step.
Yeah. was to
Okay.
Go back to put it out to the community engagement, any friendly amendments from the community we consider, and then go back because we're following within the legal parameters of what we could do. And we weren't really following what we were following to some extent, what they do on the mainland, but basically our.
Okay, very good. All right. Additional volunteers for it. We've got Cody, Lee, Neva, one more? No more?
Oh, I will, I guess.
Ron? Hold his arm up. Okay, those four will form the cannabis task force, and you can begin your discussions at any point, I guess.
Can we use, Larissa? She was our note taker.
Sure can. Yeah. And the last one I have here is bylaw development, law development. A committee,
So that is part of the Homeland Security.
that'll be folded in there. Okay, good. That's it for my report. Can I have a mover and seconder for the report? Moved by Ron, second by Lee. All those in favor? That's carried. Okay, let's take a quick break here. I understand there's some coffee and donuts here and pizza. So let's have a quick 10-minute break. Put on some coats. Hold it here. Okay, let's move on to our agenda. We're now at item number 5.1, COVID Security and Action Planning Working Group meeting dated April 22nd. You've all received the minutes. Any questions on the minutes? If not, I'll have a mover and seconder to approve those minutes. Moved by Ron, seconder please. Second by Keenan. All those in favor? That is carried. Moving on to the next topic under 5.2, Casino Rama Policy Review Task Force. Minutes of April 22nd. You have received those and had opportunity to review them. Questions on them? Elaine?
You suspended Casino Rama applications until the functional review is completed. When do you see that being completed? Because community members are calling and asking me, what's going on with that? And I'm not sure if I take.
Those are all valid questions, and the short answer that I can give you is that it's going to take some time to complete this process. And we do understand that there are a number of applications on pause, and the initial look at those applications, I understand that those could be turned to other funding sources for consideration. Some of them are dealing with health needs or health requirements that could quite possibly be funded through the health center. So I don't know. But we're working as fast as we can to go through this update and come back with a recommendation back to council on how we can proceed on this, because the approval and recommendation process to deal with these applications is, I can say, greatly flawed. It all relies on an approval and vetting through basically a receptionist, and there's no committee structure or et cetera attached to this. So I have some concerns over that, and I know that other members of the working group as well have concerns on that process, or more, I guess, fair consideration. James, did you want to add anything on that?
And I think the other aspect is we're reviewing different agreements and making sure that the policy we put in place is in harmony with the agreement.
There's a number of things that are concerned. I don't know if any of the other members want to add any additional comments, but one of the things we want to make sure that to the extent possible that we're abiding with the master agreement that flows us the money. And one of the big flaws that we see with the existing process, there's no established evaluation process on how the monies are spent and how effectively they've been used at year end. There is no annual report to address that. And we have to look at the various ways and means, I guess, to shore that process up. Elaine?
So will this Casino Rama funding go to the finance structure then? That would be Brianne and Marcia.
You want to take a crack at that?
The first step after we were presented with a number of problem areas was asking for the agreement that the First Nations has with the OFNLP. So we requested the agreement, and I was presented with that today, this evening, so that we know we have a starting point. We don't believe there was ever a policy. There are draft policies written with differences within the policies. There isn't, to my knowledge, the information I was shared, that was shared with me, there isn't an approved policy for the distribution of these dollars. And there are criteria for the dollars, and there's a lot of areas that we cannot use the dollars for. And we apparently have been violating some of that criteria, and so we have to go back to the drawing board. And we want to make sure we're on the right track and that everyone, the money is for the membership, that's clear. And that's our intent. We just need to get our ducks in order before we can begin entertaining applications. I think that's the short answer. There's a lot of work that has to be done. So we're working on it.
Thank you, Marcia. Any additional questions? If not, can I have a mover and seconder for the minutes? Both sets? Okay. Can I have a seconder, please? Second by Neva. All those in favor? That is carried. We have dispensed with the minutes. Update on tech savvy and our negotiations or our strategy related to that.
Right now, we're waiting for the government grant organization tech savvy just a few days ago. So we're expecting to hear any day now whether that's positive or not. So the improvement point is on hold. We'll be here response, but we don't hear anything by the end of the month. We'll probably revisit and determine whether we want to look at it in the funding proposal. They haven't given us.
Is that for tech savvy?
Tell it.
So we had approved some radios. Is that what you're talking about, the point to point? So back in October, we approved like a bunch of upgrades, correct?
Well, that's one set of radios, yeah. So these are moving the radios to 5 megahertz. They go from building to building for the administration.
So where are the ones that we had approved?
They're on hold right now, so that we wouldn't incur that cost.
Why are they on?
Well, we comes into place by the end of the month. We hope to be able to have fiber optic available to each household as early as October. And so, the completion of the project, you would have some benefit for 2 or 3 months, and then it would be superseded by the fiber for most households.
But when we ordered those, and we had talked about like using them to extend to the points that were hard to get to create new spots, right? Like going to Lee's house out that way, like creating that opportunity. Why would we just not? Shouldn't we have just gone through with those radios? And because then we'd still have them, and then we would, if it was way back in October, we weren't even talking about the tech savvy fiber optic till after Christmas.
There was also a purchase of household radios, just so that we can have more new hookups. So we're still working on that. Like in terms of the immediate benefit from the 5 megahertz, our biggest problem right now is balancing the load between the 2 streams of bandwidth we receive. And we do have next dimension working on that right now. There is going to be a long-term benefit if we see ourselves using point-to-point as our primary method over the next 2 or 3 years. But if we don't, then it would be a benefit for a very short period of time.
I guess Tyler's direct question is, why haven't we made the purchase? And if we haven't, why aren't we making the purchase?
If we had it approved way back in October to get that, like it would have been a longer time, and now we're just shortening our benefit with it.
Well, and we had difficult procuring those radios because of the COVID procurement disruptions. So they were coming from China. So I checked with them in late February to see if they had arrived, and they hadn't at that time. So because we were at a window where we were hoping to know by now whether we would have received the funding for fiber. So we put that on hold because what we wanted to avoid was they arrive and we incur a cost. And you're right, under normal circumstances, it would have been approved in October and delivered in November. But it was a long delay because of COVID. So we saw it as an opportunity to say, we may find out next month that we have fiber, and let's see if we can save.
And is that, so over to tech savvy, is that the underground idea then?
It's going to be above ground wires.
On the hydro poles?
It would be a separate set of hydro pole. There would be some trenching, but also much of it would be above ground pole.
So you're putting up new poles all around the island?
Yeah.
And it would be above ground. Doesn't that create?
The same problem.
Yeah. Like, isn't the reason it goes underground is to avoid weather?
Foliage.
The technology for the above ground really seems to have improved. So the majority of these projects are above ground because they're easy to complete within a reasonable cost.
I got Cody, then Marcia.
Yeah, just a question, why don't we seek advisement from our programmer and our Wi-Fi staff? I would love to see our techs come in here and give us some recommendations. And I would like to do, see if we could offer some help in any type of way. I feel that our employees are not getting voiced. They're almost pushed in a closet, and that closet door, they're in timeout right now. So I think we should bring in our Wi-Fi team and listen to them. See if they have any concerns or advice. And we're just hearing the story of Tech Savvy. We have employees that are out there right now that know the job, and they might have valuable advice in saving our system. That's my little bit of advice. Jimmy Lynch.
Okay, noted. Marcia.
I think when that issue was brought to us, there was not going to be any cost to WIFIN, that Tech Savvy was securing the funding to do this project. And it didn't involve the trenching. Trenching ideally would be the ideal route to go. So we didn't have any problems down the way with poles falling over, lines being cut or whatever. But we were looking at I guess I'll call it a quick fix because of COVID and the fact that the many households with children, school age, are unable to do any lessons online because the Wi-Fi is kicking out. That was the one area we were addressing. Okay, how can we do that with the what's the best way? And I think that's why we went with that Tech Savvy's proposal. Doesn't mean we have to do it if nothing's happening, but we really need to think about the children and their education and how we can fix this problem. Big much.
Thank you. Elaine.
I know a lot of times it's been brought to them, our meeting, that this is what we're spending on First Dimension, this is how much we're spending on the different people or companies that come and sell us what they have, but I have to agree with Cody that I think we should listen to the people that have been working with our Wi-Fi, because I know little about Wi-Fi and how much bandwidth we're paying for, and how much are we actually getting, and I don't know anything. I don't know too much about that. I'd like to know more about it. I'd like to be informed about it, and I'd like to be informed of how much is our community spending on all of this? Like, what is the big picture for finances in regards to how much we're spending on community Wi-Fi, and when are we ever going to get the right, community Wi-Fi for our community? It always has to do with foliage, and we're going back to poles, like poles and in the air and not in the ground. So I need a better understanding in that regard.
Ron, over to you.
Yeah. I was kind of hearing this, and I agree with what Cody and Tyler are saying. We're thinking this out. I don't see the benefit of going above ground, but I don't know because I don't have a technical set. It seems like anytime a twig or something goes down, it's something to all up. And I know James said that they were talking about splitting the split signal, you know, and we're like maybe another month or so on that. My kids are like supposed to be graduating and other things that can't even get online. You know, people are trying to work, people that are going to university, college can't get online. You see it lit up all over, you know, people complaining because of that. Pissed, you know, and it's like they have every right. Like there's people going into a hot zone because they can't even get signal up here. Put all this money in this direction, that direction. And I'm not trying to make nobody a scapegoat, but man, we gotta have a damn solution now. This has gone on too long. Like we pay. Moving forward, and now we're hearing this, it's kind of like, I don't know. So anyway, that's just my 2 cents.
Hey, Which? Tyler.
I just think that, again, like everybody else is saying, I think we need a report from our Wi-Fi people and to see what, you know, like a nice explanation of where it sits, what's possible, all those different things from the people who are working on it, like seeing Matt. I think he had, as everything else was kind of going on, he was talking about it a bit, and I looked at it, and there was a bunch of stuff I didn't understand. So just like, you know, a nice explanation to us here to see where it's at, because I'm sure we've all gotten questions and leaves in the dark. Like he doesn't even get it. He lives on one block, right? And it's not just him, but there's more. So I think we need to hear from our Wi-Fi workers and report some of that.
If I might suggest that at the next regular council meeting that we would have table for our benefit the comprehensive report, I guess, on the basically a situational analysis on where we are with our existing Wi-Fi system. And at the same time, on the same agenda item, if we could not have a report on an update on the activities by Tech Savvy and the plan going forward. I think that all of us would enjoy looking at the plan and the map and how it's going to address the costs and timeframes, et cetera. And it might even be beneficial if we could to have a representative from Tech Savvy to explain to us on the based on a cost benefit analysis what the real pros are for this situation, and we can ask directly, why the poles and not underground? And then maybe we'll have a reasonable response. If we could look at that perhaps as a way of opening our eyes a bit more on what's going on. James?
Keep in mind, I was confused about the poles myself when I first saw the plan, but this is cable, right? So it's the same direct fiber connection you would get if it was trench.
I don't think there's a question on that. It's the vulnerability of overhanging cable, I guess, in terms of our location, what we got around it. We're surrounded by trees, and we have storms, and those trees come down and branches come down, and we see that happening with our hydro. So what's, I understand it's very costly too to repair a fiber optic line, and a lot more than what it costs for a typical hydro outage.
I think it's a good idea to have them come and explain.
Absolutely, yeah. Neva?
Just a note, and maybe you can try to, if we as council approve something to be bought, implemented, it should happen within a timely manner. If there is a stall or delay or a change in the plan, that should come back to us in the report earlier than 4 months, 5 months later. Things are made to happen, when we done to happen.
You're absolutely correct. If there's problems, and we should hear what the problems are. Cody?
Could we also bring our own Wi-Fi guys in there so we can hear from them and address some of their concerns and advice as well?
I leave that to the discretion of council. I don't know if we're moving into HR issues, but Elaine?
Oh, when you said that, his product. It's good to hear, but they're doing it for their benefit, not for our community's benefit. The bottom line for them is money, right? We want the best service possible, and I don't understand everything that they're gonna come and tell us. They'll probably put it in layman's terms for us, but I still want to hear both sides, like these guys that were on the ground doing the work, and I'd like to hear what they have to say also. Be much.
Thank you, Elaine. James?
So I thought this was going to be a much simpler update, or I would have prepared something. But really what Tech Savvy is doing is they're a utility company, and they're providing the account and service. What we may want to do, which is what many local governments do, is arrange a way so that we service our own commercial building so that we're not paying their commercial rates. But in terms of residences, there's been hundreds of millions of dollars in funding for rural bandwidth, and we haven't been poised to receive any of it. So, there was some knowledge that Tech Savvy is in a position to apply for grants in our area, and they're willing to work for it because they're not like a Cogeco where we're too small for them to really care. So we've known that for a while, and we're in a better position. And there's no cost to us. I mean, it's really just having the same access to our residences to high-speed internet that there are in other places, and it's become kind of a requirement to do business in this day and age. So I know some of the staff have some ideas of running bandwidth accounts or high-speed internet, and I mean, it sounds good, but I know there's not the economy of scale to do it in a way where we're not losing money corporately. And I worry about our own capacity to handle our accounts for community Wi-Fi because we have a lot of trouble doing it. We're very behind on accounts, and we lose tremendous amounts of money with that program. So, I think this is an opportunity that's been around, and I'm glad to see that we've got a good shot at it. disconnect as month.
I think your last point raises a very important issue, I guess, in terms of the community and its ability to pay the monthly bill and stuff like that. That brings forward questions, I guess, in terms of the delivery model. Are we holding the overall or overarching responsibility to Tech Savvy that the complete bill is going to be paid for the community, whether it's commercial or residential? Or are we responsible to run after the residents, and if they can't pay, then it has to be turned off, and to make sure how far the market's going to shrink.
We would have no responsibility like that, so they're taking on all the risk.
Okay. Now,
Have they made a presentation to council, Tech Savvy?
They made a presentation to our team and we brought the presentation
I
here.
think
The
it
answer
needs
is
to be
no.
brought-
So no, so we could bring them. It's a good
I
idea.
think it needs to be brought to full council so that we understand. Wi-Fi is like, costs us millions of dollars. When we first installed this whole system here, when it didn't work out, we got sued for like $400,000. Something like that. We need to get a grip on exactly how much we're spending on it. I mean, we can't keep putting more and more and more money into something that doesn't give us what we need. So I think we need not only to hear from Tech Savvy, but whoever else can offer us, a better system. So that's what I would recommend. That you bring like whoever else can do the job and get us the best Wi-Fi service we can get to a council meeting. So that we don't keep spending more and more money. We need our children need in this day and age, because of what's going on, they need to have service. Make sure they have it. Instead of going around in circles, I see us going around in circles.
So,
okay, let's wrap this up.
and we were partnered with Cogeco for about the last year, so they have been applying on our behalf. But like I said, they're not terribly responsive, and there's been a higher success rate for smaller projects like ours with Tech Savvy. But yeah, I agree with having them come and present the model. The other alternative would be trying to make those proposals ourselves, which again, we would have to pay so much money to do that, and we'd be taking on so much risk. So we can do it, but I don't know of any other small community that's taking on their own high-speed broadband. Just within the current Ontario framework. Admittedly, they've made it difficult. That's where we are.
Okay, I think we're beating this thing to death. A complete financial wrap-up of all the investment that Wapalan First Nation has made, I guess, in terms of the installation of the Wi-Fi system since day one to the present, so that we can use it as some type of comparative analysis on the pros and cons of entering into fiber optic, whether it's Tech Savvy or others, so that we can have a measuring stick on how much better service we're going to get and how much less it's going to cost ourselves and community members to have that service. Okay. We could have that notation in a minute.
And a report from our guys too.
Yep, and the report as well. Maybe we should cover all those things off with a very broad council motion. Be it resolved then that the council instructs administration to prepare a financial roll-up of all the investment and capital that Wapalan has made into the current Wi-Fi systems over the last number of years up to the present. Number two, that we invite Tech Savvy into a council meeting to prepare or present rather a presentation on their fiber optic plan for Wapalan First Nations and to identify the costs and to identify the, how the residential customers will be billed, as well as how the commercial structures and government structure will be billed as well. And there was one last point.
Our Wi-Fi.
Tyler, do you recall it?
The report from our Wi-Fi department.
And the invitation to the, I guess, employees to present the report from the Wi-Fi department, outlining any type of pros and concerns that they may have in terms of the installations or activities related to maintaining that system. Fair enough? Good enough?
Cody said he had some information that he has associates, I think, looking forward.
Information.
From inspect?
You said you had somebody that could give us information on Wi-Fi.
Our tech team. Our employees, right? That's what you're talking about.
Yeah, I want our employees, I want to touch base with them because all we're hearing right now is James's story, is tech savvy, is what I feel like we're kind of missing out on our guys' words. So, and none of us here are computer programmers. I think that it would be very valuable to have our own guys sitting here at that meeting so that we can have them interpret computer language to us. That would be beneficial. If we have our own guys, let's utilize them. Miguel.
Okay, that's fine for the employees and their report. I also thought you had mentioned something about inspect or something.
Eric Ruggles is the owner of Inspect, and he does environmental assessments and analyzation, does testing for water. soil.
Perhaps we could get a corporate bio on their services and.
That had to do with water quality.
Yeah, that was.
Right,
I
That
thought
was
they did,
environmental.
I thought they did fiber optic lines too.
No.
See if they do. Okay, I think that's the mouthful of the resolution. Elaine?
I'll move it.
Okay, seconded by Marcia. All those in favor? Carry it. Okay, that'll carry out our concerns about technology. Moving on. We did the Beauchard,
Yeah.
and we're moving down to Brook Signs. I thought we had signs waiting for us at Public Works.
This is for the health center to give them a new sign, and it was budgeted.
Is this a electronic sign at that cost?
It's a
Full color
giant. sign.
LED display.
Is it a jumbotron or what?
Giant.
They have the money for that?
Yep.
Okay,
Question.
Marcia,
This doesn't include the electrical hookup of the sign. I don't see cost there for that in the fine print. So they're not responsible to hook it up. They'll just put it there.
what's the procedure we used in the past, I guess, for the council?
They'll,
and the-
they'll install it, but they're not gonna, the electrical services to the proposed signs, unless specifically quoted above, is assumed to be existing or provided by others.
They costed that out with another vendor.
Say what?
It's with another vendor, but it's not a high enough amount to come to council.
It's a pretty simple, standard type of routine to hook it up. And I think we would just take the same approach that we used for the one in front of the governance building or the one in front of the education. I think those costs would be similar. They're around, I think it was around 3,500 or something.
Yeah, we can use a local electrician.
I don't have my hand up. I'm just trying to keep the center.
Again, Marcia, what the,
I can ask Kyla to come back. if you have questions.
No, that was just I just wanted to make sure everyone understood. We still have to pay for the electrical hookup. Okay.
I think you're gonna have to try another one.
Oh, that one's great. That one's
That works.
okay.
Yeah.
Oh,
For
Elaine. Elaine's-
That one, there.
Get that one.
Thank you.
Regret.
Okay, very good. All right. So it's decided then we would hold off on the purchase until we get complete costing or? Keenan?
Let's just get it.
You got a comment?
Yeah.
Brianne has a comment?
I'm just wondering why you're spending the minister without, again, Tyler brought this up, why it's being brought.
Well, so until we revise the financial policy, my spending authority is 20,000.
Okay.
We're on finance, right?
If he would, he could.
Okay.
Keenan?
He moved.
Oh, what's moved? Forget what you're moving now. So is that inclusive of all costs to install this sign?
Yes.
Okay, seconder, please.
That's James stated.
It's in budget. Seconder, please. Second by Val.
Wait, I have a question.
Okay.
Doesn't that say on the footing, it says power to sign supply? That's your concern.
Right.
So that's to me sounds like it's going to be like, it's going to be hooked up and supplied. I don't know, what is that being by others?
That's my first thing.
We brought in an electrician when we put in the governance buildings.
So is that your concern?
Yes, but James said, it would be, assuming we can add it to the approval, the electrical portion of it, to be clear, I guess, it would be less than $5,000, correct?
Oh, yeah, and it's a different vendor, so typically would approve that.
Okay, with that understanding that James will cover the cost for the installation.
Yep, James has it.
Yeah, get his credit card numbers before he leaves. It's been moved in second. All those in favor? Carried. All right.
Chief, before you go too far into the executive report, finish a council portfolio item before we go too far. This is the IFN quarterly meeting
Oh, yeah.
that's coming up.
I didn't see it here, but
Yeah. There's our IFN quarterly meeting coming up on May 26th and 27th.
yep.
And if we're, until we withdraw from those organizations, I think we should maintain an interface. So we need the usual 2 delegates, and if the chief's not in attendance, the proxy, that sort of thing. So May 26th and 27th, we need our usual delegates for that. I'm available as an option.
Keenan,
I'm interested.
you're interested? Okay. Cody?
Yep. I got an email from Diane and I sent her my availability, so I'm interested.
Okay.
How many get to go?
I think we can allow as many as we want.
Oh, and it's on Zoom, right?
It's a Zoom thing. NAWASH is hosting it, but Chief Najwan says he's not comfortable for us to physically go into his community at this point, so it'll likely be a Zoom meeting because of the COVID risk. May 26th and May 27th. Meeting on Zoom, basically.
Okay, the delegates then for the
I'm interested.
virtual meeting at NAWASH for the IFN quarterly meeting will be myself, Burton, Keenan, and Cody. Thus far, did I get it? Did I get everyone? Okay.
Question.
Question?
On the deck.
Pardon me?
What's on the deck?
On the agenda.
I haven't seen the agenda yet.
Well, they have a roster of ongoing issues. A lot of them are funding related, obviously. But I think the main issue is going into the Chiefs of Ontario, but it's also going into the Assembly of First Nation, is the conflict that AFN, the Chiefs of Ontario had with respect to, and there's some in-camera items, I guess, in relation to that we have to go probably in camera, because there's some legal matters that are involved.
Yeah.
So that's the main, I think the main issue has been an ongoing issue for the last last several meetings, because this has been going on for several years with Ontario's relationship with here. So that in itself takes a long time.
And I guess the real heavy consideration on this, that there is some talk of the Ontario as a whole pulling out of the Assembly of First Nations. So that's what's at stake here. Oh, Alicia.
May 25th is a regular council meeting, and I believe May 26th is scheduled the corporations for all day.
All day? Okay.
I think the IFM was taking
Yeah.
up till 4:30 corporation.
1 to 4.
What was it, corporations? 1 to 4?
1 to 4.
Okay, all right. Can we reschedule Kimberly?
It's not with Kimberly, it's with the corporation.
Oh, I see. I thought it was the restructuring one. Oh, okay. Well, I think we have to go through with the corporations ones there that I will be in attendance at the council meeting.
Just a note with the Great Newton, there's an offer made to any council members that want to be go through like a wind turbine one kind of information session will be offered by Great Newton, virtual. That's going to be set up and any interested members of council can attend. Get some background on wind turbines, just so I don't know what things are remote when we talk corporation.
Okay.
Let me know and I'll forward your name.
Okay, let's back up here and deal with one item at a time here first, though. We're confirming the delegates for that meeting. Those available to attend can do so, I guess. We'll leave that up to your personal judgment. And we will proceed, though, on the meeting with the balance of the corporations on that particular day as well. Agreed? Okay, very good. Information from Lyle, have it noted for the minutes there on the information or the presentation from Wind Energy Project. And when is our policy analyst coming on board?
We posted it the week of the HR committee, so that could be closing.
Okay. Is there any uptake on the interest for it?
I believe so.
Okay, very good. Right. I guess this is the type of thing that we would assign to them, I guess, in terms of the AFN and the implication for Wapland First Nations and our relationship with the independent First Nations and the Chiefs of Ontario and the Assembly of First Nations all the way along the line there. I guess some type of overall analysis. I will send about financial, dealing with financial regulations or not abiding by them and contracts between the favorite sons and favorite daughters and all these other things. So it's a very complex issue, but it's really gotten the ire of the regional chief for Ontario there. It's very, there's a very good detailed chronological report on that. And I will present or share that with you. I'll give you a good backdrop on the issues at hand. Okay. Moving on. Bergen, is that enough? Or,
No, that's good. I just didn't want that to be lost in the shuffle because they need to have their delegates right away, otherwise they'll scrub the meeting, that type of thing.
yeah, I think they got enough feedback now that they're going to proceed with it. Moving on, the looks like a funding agreement.
Right, so amendment to receive more Health Canada funding.
So we need a mover and seconder? Moved by Marcia, second by Cody. All those in favor? That is carried. Here's the corporate training.
Based on a motion from council, I asked Kimberly Thomas to help us with restructuring. And so she is going to attend that meeting on the 26th that we mentioned in the afternoon.
Okay.
Just as an observer more than anything else. And so we had asked to schedule a day of corporate training, and I think we're going to deal with both. We're going to deal with 3 hours of corporate training, 3 hours of restructuring, planning that. So we need a day, and she had suggested that week of May 31st because she has that week open. Right?
Okay, check your calendars.
One day, right?
I don't think you would take a week of that. Well,
Is this going to be available to board members on the corporation?
I don't believe so, because part of the agenda will be recommendations to consolidate with the board.
Because I think they need to train it. Ones that are on the corporation.
well, that may be a subsequent thing that we can do, I guess, for whatever we decide after restructuring the corporations. What's a good date for everyone? Suggestions?
Any day would that be? Mine's open.
I'm wide open. Monday?
That's a holiday.
Oh, no, 31st?
Is that Memorial Day?
The 24th.
Second for that.
Memorial Day is American.
I thought we celebrated.
Yeah, Wednesdays are always good. What's Wednesday?
The second.
Okay, that sounds good. Starting at 10 o'clock? Yep.
She does have to attend virtually. We talked about that quite a bit. She lives in Six Nations. She'd like to have it person.
She's coming in person?
She's not.
Okay. Oh, this should be fun then. Okay, mover and seconder to set that date for the corporate training amongst other things. It's moved by Val, second by Cody. All those in favor? Okay, carried. That's agreed. Travel insurance, update on that.
Okay. So what council had asked us to do is we're looking at other possible vendors for our comprehensive insurance. And so this is to extend us 3 months into the new fiscal year, so to June 30th. So we made that request to Tribal. Can you provide us with a premium rate for 3 months? There are a few parts of the policy that we have to pay more for 3 months, but this is, we're looking at option 3. And Arlene and I have been trying to sort that out, but I do have a dollar amount for you in terms of what you need to approve, and this will provide us with coverage until June 30th while we look at other options.
Your recommendation then?
So the recommendation is option 3, and I'm just pulling the amount. Okay, the amount is $129,012. Okay. So look, what I would need is a motion to pay the $129,000, $129,12 to Tribal Insurance, to cover comprehensive insurance until June 30th.
Never move it to that effect? And the request for proposals has been established?
We've begun that process. We're reaching out to somebody that does request for proposals.
Okay.
So he's going to guide that process for us.
Okay, cover all the points, huh? Yeah, okay. Move by Lyle, seconder, please. Second by Burton. All those in favor? That's carried. Okay. Moving on to 6.6, proposal to review housing operation and policy for Wapalan First Nation.
So we have a proposal here. It's fairly reasonable, and it's from a company called Turtle Island Associates, Inc. But it's owned by consultant Roxanne Parker. It's probably one of the most widely and so her team would allow us to make the policy revisions to improve the house.
I don't have any problems with the scope, I guess, of the exercise. I'm wondering if we should refer this over to community infrastructure for their review and recommendation.
Question. Can any of us elected officials give some input into this? Suggestions for improvement, or
So
do we give those to the infrastructure committee?
Typically would go to representations or sit in with the infrastructure committee and discuss it at that level there and try and incorporate it into the last package that comes to council there for consideration.
So we
Moved by
do-
Lyle.
There's no objection, we got no problem with them coming and listening in. It's a virtual meeting anyway.
Yeah.
Welcome.
Oh, thank you.
And anybody else, I guess, that wants to
What day is
provide
it?
input?
Are there dates?
right now, we're just approval for the consultant to move forward with their previous motion to identify a consultant.
And I think we should hold off on that until we get a recommendation back from infrastructure. Agreed? Can I have a mover and seconder to that effect then, that the issue will be referred to the infrastructure committee? Moved by Cody, second by Keenan. All those in favor? That's carried. Okay. Do we need in camera for some items? Okay. Motion to go in camera, again. Moved by Keenan, second by Elaine. All those in favor? That's carried. We're in camera. Go ahead.
Okay, the first item is a request from one of the homeowners